All right, so our last lesson had to deal with decimal place value and then relating decimals to fractions. So hopefully you've had a lot of practice on that and you've done pretty well on the assignments. Now we're moving into comparing decimals. We compared fractions. We compared fractions by using equivalent fractions. We compared fractions by using benchmark fractions. We used number lines. We ordered fractions. We're going to do the same thing with decimals, all right? The key to comparing decimals is to use your place value to help you determine the larger decimal. For example, if I look at number 1, the biggest misconception is that kids are going to think that 6 4/100 is larger than 6 2/10 because let's face it, it just looks like it's bigger, okay? It's, oh, well, this one goes up to the hundredths place. This one only goes to the tenths place. So this one's got to be bigger, okay? But that would be incorrect because remember, 6 2/10 is really the same thing as 6 20/100. So really you're comparing a 6 20/100 to a 6 4/100. All right, and so I use place value. So notice how I lined them up by decimals. There's a 6 in the ones place. If I jump to my tenths place, this right here is going to determine which one's bigger. If I compare a 2 to a 0, 2 is obviously bigger. So 6 2/10 is actually larger than 6 4/100. Okay, so be careful not to just look at it and say, oh, well, this one looks bigger. Okay, this one's in the hundredths place. Well, guess what? This one is too, if I say 6 20/100. All right. Look at the next one, 24 2/10 compared to 24 3/10. All right, if I'm comparing place value, I line them up. There's a 2 in my tens, a 4 in my ones. I get to my tenths place, 2 and 3. Well, 3 is obviously bigger. So 24 3/10 is bigger. All right. Notice this one, 71 thousandths compared to 71 hundredths. A lot of kids are going to say, oh, well, you're bigger because you're in the thousandths place, but I can also make this in the thousandths place. Think about equivalent decimals. This is really 710 thousandths, okay, which is a lot bigger than just 71 thousandths. All right, line them up. My tenths place has a 0. My tenths place has a 7. 71 hundredths is larger. Okay, so again, be very careful not just looking at it and thinking if one's in the hundredths place, one's in the tenths place, the one that's in the hundredths place is larger. That's not true. Think about equivalent decimals. I can make decimals that are in the tenths place, I can make them in the hundredths place. Okay, so please use your place value here when you are comparing. All right. Also look at ordering decimals. Same thing if I'm ordering, because you're technically comparing when you're ordering. So I'm going from least to greatest, L to G. Here are my numbers, 6 2/10, 6 22/100, 5 4/10, 5 12/100. Okay, you can line all of these up in a straight line and compare them if you want to, but if I'm going from the smallest, notice my smallest is 5 12/100. The reason it's smaller than 5 4/10 is because look at my tenths place. There's a 1, there's a 4. That 1 makes it smaller than that 4, so that's why it's got to come ahead of it. Okay, 6 2/10 compared to 6 22/100. Again, if I had a place here in this hundredths place, this would really be a 0, whereas this is a 2. Okay, so when I order it from least to greatest, this would be my order. In this example, same thing. I'm going from least to greatest. 71 1/10, 5 71/100, 76 2/100, 45 3/10. Okay. If I'm doing the smallest, obviously it's 5 71/100. All right, because look at the left of the decimal. I've got a 75, I've got a 5, I've got a 76, I've got a 45. So obviously this one's the smallest. Then comes my 45 3/10. If I'm comparing this next one, 75 1/10 and 76 2/10. Okay, or excuse me, 2/100. All right, so again, the key here when ordering and comparing decimals is to not just eyeball it and look at the number and say, well, you look bigger than the other one. That's not how it works, okay? Remember, decimals can be equivalent to each other even if one's in the tenths place and one's in the hundredths place, or one's in the hundredths place and one's in the thousandths place. So some of you may want to even use fractions to help you figure it out, or like I said, line them up using your decimals and then compare place values. Okay? All right, so once you're done with this video, you're going to complete the comparing and ordering decimal assignment. So if you need more help, you can come back and replay this video.